For those of you who may not know me well, my name is Tammy Wilson. I'm with the Northern Kentucky Chamber, and I serve as the Vice President of Government Relations and Business Advocacy. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's Government Forum. We're glad you can join us, and I'm certain that this will be a very insightful conversation with several of our local mayors. And I'm very thankful to Mayor Washington, Abishan, and Haas for taking time out of what I know is a very busy schedule to be with us today. Before we dive in, I just want to take a moment to set the stage for today's program. We are fortunate to be joined by these three mayors, each representing one city in Boone, Kenton, and Campbell counties, who will take part in a panel discussion. I will be moderating. Sorry if you don't like that. We'll explore key topics like workforce challenges, income-aligned housing, road infrastructure, and economic development. Importantly, we've also built in the opportunity for these mayors to speak to what makes their city brand, what makes their city special and unique, and how those distinct qualities shape both their priorities and the challenges they're working to address. After the discussion, we'll open the floor for audience questions. I will return to the podium at the end with a few closing remarks and to officially wrap up today's program. At this time, I kindly ask you to silence your cell phones, but you do not have to put them away. Please take ample pictures, and if you'd like to post those on social media, I just ask that you tag the chamber so that we can take part in the discussion and the movement around of that social media post. As you prepare to enjoy the program today, I'd like to take a moment to thank our great sponsors. Events like this could never, ever happen without the support of our many sponsors. Their partnership is vital, and like today's success, it would not be successful without their support and engagement. I'll name them all by their sponsorship level, and I just ask that you hold your applause until the end to where we can all thank them together. Today our title sponsors are Duke Energy and Fidelity Investments. Our networking sponsors are Alta Fiber, Heritage Bank, Taft, Stentinius, and Hollister. Yay, look at me bobbing, Brad. I said the whole thing. Or Taft Law, as they're well known. Our event sponsors are Amazon and St. Elizabeth Healthcare. And again, our media partner is Link NKY. And I do want to point out today we are fortunate to have KET with us as well. So I'm very excited about that. These companies are within our communities and have stepped up to support the Chamber's advocacy efforts. Would representatives from all of these sponsors please stand to be recognized at this time? Thank you very much. I personally really appreciate your support of advocacy. I'd also like to recognize a few others in the room. Do we have other elected officials with us today? I thought I saw registered. Please stand to be recognized if you are an elected official in the Northern Kentucky region. Thank you for your service. I'd also like to honor and recognize any of the Chamber Board of Directors that are with us today, and I think we may have just a few. Vacation season is raging, so any board members of the Chamber Board of Directors, please stand and be recognized. And lastly, but certainly not least, I would like to welcome any Northern Kentucky young professionals that are in the room. If you are here today, either on our young professional passport ticket, what do we call that, Kyle? Or just here as a young professional, as a guest of somebody else, would you please stand so we can recognize you? You are the future of our region. So at this time, I'm pleased to introduce someone who plays a really important part of both our business community and this event today, David Wallace of Heritage Bank. David will help us kick off the panel portion of today's program, but first let me share a little bit about him. A Northern Kentucky native, David has led Heritage Bank since 2020, guiding its continued growth and community focus. He's a University of Kentucky and Chase Law School graduate and was the bank's legal counsel from its founding. David is an active civic leader and was honored with the Northern Kentucky Chamber's Community Award in 2024 for his impact across the region. He also happens to be a really good friend and a heck of a nice guy. So would you join me in welcoming David Wallace to the podium?
Wow, well, thanks, Tammy. That's all right. I'm a good. You're probably the first person that said I'm a good guy. Well, now that I don't practice law anymore, it is a little more often than it used to be. Good afternoon, everybody. And on behalf of Heritage Bank, it's a pleasure to welcome here today this panel discussion featuring three of the most influential leaders in Northern Kentucky. Heritage Bank, it is a locally owned community bank, is proud to support events like this and conversations where ideas are shared, challenges are addressed, and a vision for our region's future takes shape. Northern Kentucky's strength lies in its diversity and collaboration of our communities, and the leadership represented here today on today's panel reflects that. We look forward to hearing insights on economic growth, infrastructure, housing, and all the issues that matter most to the people in our region and the businesses of our region. Thank our mayors today that are here for taking the time to be part of this important discussion, and thank you, everyone here, for your commitment to the Northern Kentucky region. Our first mayor that we're going to introduce is Mayor Ron Washington of Covington. Ron is the current mayor of Covington and was the first African-American elected to that role. As a Covington native and Holmes High School graduate, Ron broke barriers as the first black police officer in Florence and later served as Chief Deputy Sheriff of Kenton County. After retiring from law enforcement, he founded a major addiction recovery center and became deeply involved in local nonprofits and education initiatives. Elected the Covington Commission in 2020 and later as vice mayor, he was sworn in to as mayor January of 2025. His leadership focuses on affordable housing, youth engagement, public safety, and inclusive economic growth. So please welcome Mayor Washington. Next, we have Mayor Julie Metzger-Abishon of Florence. Julie has served as mayor of Florence since 2023, following 24 years on city council, including term as vice mayor. She's a lifelong resident of Florence, and she previously led her family's longtime business, Metzger Eye Care, and holds a Doctor of Optometry degree from the University of Houston. She's a former president of the Kentucky Optometric Association and was named Optometrist of the Year in 2013. Julie remains active in regional boards and civic organizations and is focused on strong fiscal management, public safety, and continued growth for the city of Florence. Please welcome Mayor Abishon. We also want to make sure that we welcome Mayor Eric Haas, Mayor of Fort Thomas. Mayor Haas has served in the city of Fort Thomas Council since 1997, first as a longtime member of City Council and now as mayor since 2018. As a proud graduate of Highlands High School and Hanover College, he's also had a successful business owner as one of the founders of the Hofbrauhaus in Newport. Known for his steady leadership and deep commitment to community, Mayor Haas continues to be a strong voice for collaboration, smart growth, and civic engagement across Northern Kentucky. Welcome, Mayor Haas. So at this point, welcome mayors. They're going to get ready for some great questions, panel discussion, and Tammy, you can take over. She'll be our moderator today.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, David. Appreciate that. Y'all comfortable up here? I know it's a little snug and tight, but we're among friends, right? All right. Well, again, thank you for being here and for the work that you do every day. Oh, yeah, very important. Turn the microphones on.
Testing,
Yes.
testing.
Test.
I'm just worried about the stage, so.
Testing, yes.
You're good. I'm
Y'all put
balancing
them-
it out over here.
Y'all put them cameras down now. I don't want to be on YouTube. If this thing don't make it. But go ahead, Tammy.
It's going to be all good. We're all good. I just want to thank you all for being here and for the work that you do every day in your communities. I think everybody in the audience can agree what a great mix of perspectives we have on stage today, and I know our audience is looking forward to hearing what you have to say and how you tackle the big issues across Northern Kentucky. But before we dive into the policy and strategy pieces, let's start with something a little lighter to warm things up a little bit. Being mayor, obviously, is a big job, one I wouldn't want. What's the most surprising part of your role that people might not expect? And we can start with you, Mayor Haas, since you're closest.
Oh, real nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess the thing that surprised me the most is in Fort Thomas, we're a small bedroom community, that people really don't have any idea who the mayor is. I mean, I was on council for umpteen years, and people didn't know until they went to the voting booth. And then I became mayor, and we have a newsletter that goes out 4 times a year, and there's my picture. All of a sudden, people say, oh, you're the mayor. Great. I mean, what that says is that people trust what we're doing with our city and how we run the city because they just don't have to worry about it. So that's the thing that I thought was interesting.
That's fair. Mayor Washington or Abishan, would you like to add to what you think?
I would
people
say
might be-
what people don't realize is being mayor is a 24/7 job in a city of our size, especially. We have law enforcement out there 24/7. We have first responders and fire EMS out there 24/7. You never know what we're going to encounter, and then especially in a city of our size, we have a large daytime population because we're an employment center. And so we have a lot of visiting folks that come through as well, and you just never know what you're going to be called upon to respond to. But, just being able to stay calm, rely on your team, make good decisions, I think that's really important for a mayor to be able to do, and lean in on the skills that I've, leveraged from being in business and nonprofits and my previous experience on council. So it's definitely not it is a 24/7 job. It's not a 9-to-5 job. So
I would echo that. That's, my average week is anywhere between 40 and 60 hours. It's constantly being the ambassador of the city. As everyone knows, Covington is in a special place right now, and people want to be here and be part of our community. Well, that takes a lot of work and energy because you still have those constituents' issues of, about my garbage not being picked up on time, my street needs to be blacktop, my street needs to be repaved. You're in that meeting or that phone call or that message at one point. And then the next message is, you're talking, just to give you an example of today, this morning I woke up and my breakfast was with state reps. So you're advocating for your city on the state level. And then I'm having a conversation with the county judge executive before this meeting. And it's always advocating for the city, advocating. And sometimes that goes into late at night. So that was the big surprise for me.
Great. Thank you for those insights. Anybody want to add anything else? Mayor Haas, you look like maybe you wanted to say something
They
else.
could come to Fort Thomas if it's not so hard. There was a difference between being on council and being mayor. There is a lot more things to do. And it's kind of the 80-20 rule. You spend 80% of your time on 20% of the problems. And they are. It's like, it's trash. It's the crazy things. And the difficult part, and we have great staff, and that's what you need, because the difficult part is, okay, you've got one problem, then all of a sudden somebody comes in and says, well, we got this issue. We had a lady last night come up and say, I've talked about this 7 years ago. It got lost. Stuff happens, and we just have to work through those things.
I do think you make a good point about council and mayor. And of course, as mayor, we direct the employees. We have almost 300 employees. I know Ron probably has more than that. So that is day-to-day operations of the city. And we have 5 department heads who are, I'd stack them up over any department heads across the nation. They're the finest and the most educated and most brilliant department heads I could find. And some were found for me, and I'm happy for that. But I think in council, a lot of people will come to, citizens might engage with council when really we have such a great staff. If they would just directly engage with staff, I think their problems will get solved a lot quicker.
Great. Thank you all. Great segue, Mayor Abishan and Haas. Talent attraction and retention for our chamber members has been a top priority for some time now, really through my entire tenure here. at the chamber. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about workforce and talent attraction, retention, and how that looks for your city. We continue to hear again from our businesses that talent attraction retention is their number one challenge. What are you hearing from your employers in your city when it comes to workforce? And how are you helping to address those concerns? And then separately, I know government itself is a major workforce. Mayor Abishan alluded to that, and a major employer as well. And we know public sector roles are hard to fill right now. What workforce challenges and opportunities are you seeing in your city, and are there any creative strategies or collaborations helping to attract talent or grow key industries? And Mayor Washington, you mind starting on that one?
Sure. So I think it's important, Covington is a city of 40,000 plus, almost 41,000 people. We're the fifth largest city in the state. We do have about 400 employees. You look at our city, you think a lot of times there's a lot of good things that we're talking about that's north of 12th Street, but we have a large community outside of that. So how are we helping the people in the south of 12th Street? So when it comes to talent, so we may have people that have barriers to employment. So we have the Life Learning Center. Life Learning Center has a beautiful program that you go through and you can land a great job. Our unemployment office, the Workforce Development Office on Madison Avenue, they just introduced a program where you can learn computer tech free right there on site to get you up and running in that area. So those are some of the things that we're doing in our city. As far as from a mayor standpoint and bringing in talent for our businesses, one of the best things that we can do is make sure that we are providing a safe environment. Public safety is key in law enforcement in cities, and make sure you have a good team out there that can provide a safe place. Also, we embrace the quirkiness of Covington. We found with like Fisher Homes coming to bring 350 to 400 jobs to our city, their employees wanted to be part of our environment, part of the quirkiness, part of the walkability in our city, part of the historic nature. So they like that. So we got to keep on embracing what makes Covington Covington to entice businesses and help places like Spark House and these other incubators to show people we're open for business. And let me just hit this too. Diversity is a big issue with our city. When you look at our school system, it's a third. It's a third of Hispanic, it's a third white, and it's a third people of color. And that's another thing that people are coming to our community for. So we will provide vibrancy. We will meet people halfway. We do business incentives. We do things like that. But that's how we're working with our employers. And, we have a wonderful relationship with Gateway. They're on the ground trying to provide, educated people to those jobs. So we just have to have that kind of mentality of, hey, what do we need to help you?
So I want to touch on something you talked about, workforce, and part of a barrier to workforce is childcare. And one of the things that I've been involved with for decades, I see some educators out here too, and Katie James is also involved with me on the Boone County Early Childhood Fund Board, and we leverage funds from partners to do programs that will benefit children from kindergarten to third grade, getting them ready for kindergarten, all the way through third grade, reading scores, readiness. And that is so important. If we have a solid child care foundation, we partner with EC Learn, United Way is involved, the county's involved. So lots of collaboration, lots of partnerships. And really, if you can get the children in child care, the parents can go to work. So I think that's such a key. Any and all efforts, NKY Works, any of their initiatives to drive workforce participation is so key. We just have less and less of a population to draw from, and so we have to make sure that we reduce any barriers. And childcare is a very large barrier for families. If I can switch gears, I'm sorry, Tammy.
No, I was just going to add, are you hearing, any of you can comment on this, are you hearing directly from employers within your city limits about what issues are you hearing from your employers? Is it a shortage of workforce? Is it well beyond that?
Well, I want to hit on what
It's a lot of things.
It's
Yeah.
a lot of things, but as Julie's saying, it's childcare. We have, the city of Covington owns a building, and it's used for childcare. It's at the former IRS development site. It has approximately 112 to 115 kids that are at that site. And we know there's more room, and we need more childcare in Covington in the core, because work from home actually hurts city government, because we don't realize the tax revenue. But we also have to be flexible enough to provide these parents with a safe place to drop their children off. So it's a big deal.
Okay. Any other comments from anybody? Mayor Haas?
Fort Thomas is a little bit different. We're a bedroom community, so we don't have a lot. We do have business in Fort Thomas, but not a lot. So we don't get directly involved with employers as far as helping them find people. We as a city struggle finding police, fire. That's been a problem for everybody. We tend to be have a little bit easier time because everybody wants to work in Fort Thomas. We're blessed in that standpoint. But they brought up the issues. Northern Kentucky has such a great source of nonprofits that are all working together collaboratively to solve these problems. My wife's understood the issue about childcare. She started Trent Montessori Preschool back in 1982, and it's still going, and she's busting at the seams. Can't take all the people that are there because there are so many people with both parents at work, and they need that childcare. So that is a big issue, as well as all the other things. And she is having a little bit of an issue trying to find. She had a person working for her for 38 years, and she finally decided to retire. So she's looking for someone to work in the child care. And it is tough. It used to be relatively easy, but it is tougher.
So I'm sure you guys are hearing from your residents on this subject and a whole array of others. Mayor Washington, before we move on, the next time you comment, can you put the microphone just a little bit closer? I want to make sure the folks in the back can hear you. So we're going to transition a little. Go ahead,
I was going
Mayor.
to say, you mentioned, you touched on our employees. Can I speak on that for a second?
Yes, absolutely.
So I think it's really important as an employer and a leader of your team is to create a culture to promote people wanting to stay part of your organization. I'm really, really proud of the efforts that in the last 3 years as mayor that we've decreased our turnover rate by about 70%. And it's attributed to a lot of things. Number one, having a dedicated HR department with revised policies that are up to every federal and state law, and making sure that we implement those things correctly and have high standards for our employees, and we provide them a high level of benefit as well. And so we've looked at everything from healthcare costs to adding vision plans to changing dental providers because it was a very unpopular dental provider, changing vacation days, sick days, accruals, education incentives, seniority pay. I mean, you name it, we have looked at it, and we've implemented most of the recommendations, and it was really a team effort by our department heads who sat down and said, this is what we're hearing from our employees. This is what would make them want to stay in our organization. These things are attractive to incoming employees. This is the kind of organization we want to be. And I do think that it comes from leadership from the department heads. One of the comments was, and I just love this, and I'm going to quote one of our assistant fire chiefs. He said, one of the employees reported to me, you guys are making it really hard for me to be a disgruntled employee.
Oh, that's great.
And I thought, that's beautiful. I love that. I'm going to remember that. So I think we are competing just like everybody else is competing, and we do have to, remember that these folks want to compete throughout, and they're looking sometimes and seeing what other people are paying, and it's not all about pay. So if you create a culture, they want to stay.
Thank you. That's wonderful to hear some of the approaches you guys are doing. At this point, I'd like to, workforce and housing are very deeply connected. I think one of you mentioned that when you're talking about it's more than just, having people or the job there available for them. And here in Northern Kentucky, since the end of 2023, there have been a lot of stakeholders and people working on examining, studying, and figuring out what next steps are when it comes to income-aligned housing. The Area Development District kind of took the lead on that with that study and putting together a Home for All report, which just last week the Chamber released a 4-point housing blueprint, which was distilled from that Home for All report. And there's more on that. Brent Cooper's been doing some interviews. We will be out educating folks on what those 4 points are. We believe those are 4 points that will take our region to the next level and maybe begin to move the needle a bit on the needs. The initial report that the Ed District packaged up had reflected a need of about 6,650 needed units from top to bottom, from 1 bedroom, 1 bath, all the way up to executive homes, because we have entry-level employees as well as executives struggling to find housing. So all 3 of your cities have done some work in this space already. Talk about what you are doing, what challenges you have seen, and where you're seeing traction, if any, on this issue. Mayor Washington, you look like you're ready to.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the city of Covington finds itself in a unique position. Currently, the city of Covington has approximately 200 vacant lots or abandoned buildings. Out of those 200 vacant lots, abandoned buildings, we hold title to about 50. It was important for the Board of Commissioners to try to do something about this housing crisis that we're seeing. In that same report that you mentioned, that report says that Covington needs 800 plus new housing units in the next 5 years. So what can we do and stay within our tax bracket to make this happen? So with the Board of Commission's blessing, we announced a housing task force. That housing task force has people that are for-profit developers, nonprofit developers, some community activists involved in this, and their job is to advise the city staff on best ways forward. So one of the things that just came out of the last meeting about these vacant lots is, look, you want us as developers to take these vacant lots, but we don't know what's on those vacant lots. We don't know what the zoning is for those vacant lots. What happened to the basement on the vacant lots? Are they buildable? How close are they going to be the sidewalk? All these things that would just blow your brain out. It's like, this is crazy, the amount of information that needs to be known to the developer. But we met them, we listened to them, and now we're in the process of we're hiring someone to compile that information so we can hand it off to the developer and say, this is what you can do with this lot. This is how you can build upon it. And we would even like to go to the next stage and maybe suggest some types of buildings. Because when I look at our city, it's very simple. To keep this rolling, to keep this momentum going, we need people. We need people downtown. We need people visiting our restaurants. And only thing we can do is we can meet them there by turning these vacant properties into an opportunity. And we're going to think outside the box, and we're going to make it happen. We don't have time to study anymore. That's what I feel. Let's go. Let's use the smart people in the room, and let's move.
Very well said, Mayor. Mayor Abishan?
I just want to compliment Covington also. Ron didn't mention it, but they did start the Home Consortium for Northern Kentucky, and there are several cities involved. Florence is one of them. I think Erlanger, Newport, Bellevue, Dayton. So there's a list of cities that are involved there, and that is really geared at getting forgivable loans for folks who qualify if they buy certain housing stock, and I think it's just a great program. You have other facets to that program, but I think Covington was the leader on that. We've been able to latch on to that, and I just thank them for doing that. I do want to talk about, the real estate costs are so varied in Northern Kentucky, and I will also say, and I think Ron is going to agree with me, that Florence and Covington, we're doing our fair share for income-aligned housing. In fact, I would say we probably, between the two of us, have the vast majority of income-aligned housing. So we do need other communities to step up. We do need communities who think old time thoughts. Yeah, Fort Thomas could definitely embrace some of
We
it.
have some, come on.
We need it spread out. So, and I don't know if I'm off balance here, Ron, or you're going to join with me, but we do need other communities to be more open-minded. Some of the things in the housing study were duplexes. Maybe you have a full street of single-family houses, but you allow 3 to 4 duplexes. You've increased some density. You've lowered some costs. It's not really that obtrusive to your neighborhood. You could do something like that. Maybe it's infill housing. Maybe you have a small lot and you would do a reduced lot line where you normally wouldn't allow something to go in, but maybe you would in that one particular instance, and kind of like what you're talking about, what are the lots and what can you build there and what's the zoning and how flexible can we be? So we do need other communities to, when they see these things, don't jump on the social media frenzy and say, not in my backyard. Please be open-minded.
We have a whole committee of NIMBYs, so, it is, yes, we are definitely 3 different types of cities. We do have some low-income housing, and we have vouchers, et cetera, but not a lot. The reality with Fort Thomas is we are so blessed. We are a bedroom community, and the reason we have so many great people in Fort Thomas is because of the schools. Doesn't have anything to do with me or council or anything else. Yeah, you have to have a well-run city. That's important. But the schools are so good that parents who care about their children's education want to live in Fort Thomas. We were talking about this at lunch. It's like, well, people do pass away. Yeah, then their kids inherit the house and move in. So stuff does not come up on the market. It's rare that a house actually goes up for sale in Fort Thomas. It usually gets leaked out through friends, and then people buy that house. So it is difficult for us. In fact, through our last planning and zoning in our comprehensive plan, we did talk about higher density, and we got some pushback on that because we literally are out of space. If you look at Google Maps, we have a lot of beautiful green hillsides. Most of those are unbuildable because they slip like crazy. So we've run out of room. We've got flag lots all over the place. If a developer could figure out how to build a house in Fort Thomas, they were going to build a house in Fort Thomas. So I'm afraid we can't be much help to you guys. Sorry about that.
And Mayor Abishan touched on what we call the missing middle. That's the duplexes all the way up to the fourplexes. You have had some development, am I wrong? Some development in that way, apartments maybe? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And, I do feel like a lot of this is going to be a unique approach for each region, but I will echo Mayor Abishan's, we need more of that. So, and I'm sure there's a lot of people, collaborators in the room for that original Home for All report, as well as the housing blueprint that would echo that. So thank you for your work on that. There's a lot that could be done. I mean, that Home for All report contains, as we said, 50. We've kind of narrowed it down to at least 4 at this point we think we can begin to act on pretty immediately. There's already some things in motion in that regard, and you guys have already taken the lead on a lot of it. So thank you for your work in that space and continued work I'm confident that you guys will do. So let's move on to infrastructure, road infrastructure, and transportation as a whole. Again, I think it was Mayor Washington, or maybe it was you, Mayor Abishan, that mentioned being close to where you're employed is critically important. That helps people to get the job, keep the job, most importantly, to sustain their family. And workforce as a whole just depends on critical infrastructure like housing and roads. We, of course, have a lot of projects going on around, especially in the city of Covington and Newport, with our bridge work getting ready to start to we're going to start to see some action on that in the next several months. And it has consistently ranked part of the top of our membership when asked, what they're concerned about. Our membership weighs in that, greater levels of transportation, removal of that barrier, and regional cooperation makes a significant difference. So let's talk about how your cities are working together on transportation priorities and long-term improvements. Again, I mentioned the bridges. What is your city's top transportation infrastructure needs? And how are you working with partners to advance investments in roads, active transportation like walking, bike paths, things of that nature, to improve connectivity?
So one of the things that we have created is called a Transportation Improvement District. It's a, thank you, Sal Santora,
Yes,
who's here.
Representative Santoro for that one.
For getting that one passed. And Sal was very visionary in that. You know, sometimes if you can take state government out of the way, things get done a little quicker. He's shaking his head yes, so he agrees. So it is a program where we are just in the infancy of starting it, but we can leverage our dollars, possibly private dollars, and we can get right away a little quicker. We can utilize state dollars, maybe even federal dollars, combine those efforts and move these projects along a little bit quicker. We do have some priority projects that we've identified. One of them is a Pleasant Valley to Mall Road connector to get onto the interstate. And I think that would just be a huge mover of people in a corridor that would free up 18 and 42. 42 we've been talking about, I've been promising, this is a campaign thing, I talked about a smart street on 42, and here we are, we're still not really that much closer to it, but 42 is going to have synced signals from pretty much like the interstate all the way down into Union on 42, so it'll be real-time traffic updates, getting that in the feedback loop for the lights and timing the lights based on what the traffic is. So I would love to say that's coming soon, but just stay posted on that. But I always preface any speech on transportation and talk about, you know, what you think of as city roads are not city roads. If they have US in front of them or Kentucky in front of them, we have no jurisdiction. And our roads, we have 370 roads approximately, and we do a great job maintaining our roads. You know, we fix them. They don't have potholes. I'm sure you feel the same way in Fort Thomas and Covington. You know, city roads are definitely different than state and federal highways, and so we just focus on doing those to a very, very high level, very high quality. And
It's interesting that you say that, you know, the state roads are different than the local roads. Our big issue is Route 8 along the river, connecting Fort Thomas, Bellevue, Dayton to Silver Grove and further out. And the state was just going to close it. And they said, we're not going to open it. And this has been going on for years. And we worked, and talk about a collaborative effort. I mean, everybody and their brother got together to try to help open that road back up. I went to the state and I said, look, we will do general maintenance on that road. Every time, the issue with roads is always water. Water's the problem. Every time it rains, something slips and there's a problem. A lot of drains were all clogged up. It just needed to be fixed. And I said, every time it rains, I'll send somebody down in a truck with a shovel and let them drive Route 8. And if they see one of the ditches getting a little bit clogged up, they can get out with a shovel. If it needs a backhoe, we'll send a backhoe down there. Well, they liked that idea. But then they said, well, why don't you just do the whole road yourself? We'll just give it to you. I remember Wayne Carlisle called me up one time. He heard about that. He said, Eric, do not take that road. But I kept pushing them. I said, look, if you all still do the road, you fix it, but we'll do the general maintenance that hopefully makes the road last longer. And I said, you could use this model across the state, where there are other roads that the state is having difficulties with slippage or any typical problems, is ask the local government to at least do the short, the easy maintenance. So I'm hoping they do that, because that's the way we can work together to make the roads last longer. So that was our big issue.
Our thing is partnership as much as possible with the state and county. You'd be surprised to find out that Covington's road budget for its streets is $900,000.
Ooh.
$900,000 is our road budget out of our local funds. And so we don't have a choice but to partner as much as possible. We have a lot of good things that
now
are
wait,
happening.
Ron, there were people in here that probably thought that was a lot of money. It's not.
It's not. It's not. Just to give you an example, right now we're partnering with OKI. We've applied for a grant through OKI, we're going to try to tackle Pike Street if we're awarded the grant from Main Street to the underpass, and I believe that's going to be like $700,000. So just to give you an example of how much money it takes. So you look at our city, Scott and Greenup Street, that's coming over to the city. It's going to be converted from a one-way to two-way. Now, some of the neighbors are upset that that's going to happen, but the same neighbors a few years ago requested that happen. But government moves so slow, people have moved out. But, you know, progress is on the way. So Scott and Greenup, from 12th Street to about 20th Street, will go to a two-way. You got to remember also something about the city of Covington. When you think of Fountain Square and you think about single-family homes, city of Covington's one of the closest places to downtown Cincinnati for single-family homes. So we really are thinking that area is really, the homes in that neighborhood will really increase. You take 4th Street, where the 4th Street Bridge is closing. That's a very big concern of ours, is how that's going to impact local businesses. So we're watching that. We're working with the chamber as a partner. Pat Frew's in the room somewhere. Raise your hand, Pat, so I can see you. There you go. Hey, Pat. So we're working with CBC. How can we tackle this? How can we work together on the impact that 4th Street Bridge is going to have? Now you take 4th Street, and we moved 4th Street from 3 lanes to 2 lanes, and we've created a bicycle lane, but it's not a true bicycle lane because traffic still can merge into it. There's a lot of that stuff that's going on. The Brent Spence Bridge Project, the Companion Bridge Project, we actually have a team member full-time working with KYTC to make sure that our neighborhoods aren't impacted greatly, or at least we know it's coming. We've created an aesthetics committee to work with the state and work with the city to know the impacts of this bridge project. You know, you have the CCR, Central Riverfront project, and you know, we're going to be opening up a new 3rd Street, so that's going to have an impact on Garrett Street. There's a lot of infrastructure, a lot of good things moving in Covington. We have to educate our state folks to know that your urban core needs as much money as possible to make this vibrant engine to continue to run. So those are the things. And Sal says he's going to meet with me and create one of those districts for our city.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Thanks, Sal. Thanks. Thank you, sir. I mean, we were fellow law enforcement, but I guess yeah, okay.
You know, that 4th Street Bridge is a super huge issue.
Mm-hmm.
It should be a companion bridge. They should build the bridge just to the south of it and not close it. Closing that bridge is going to kill business. It is really going to hurt businesses, all kinds of businesses, because not being able to, people are not going to drive all the way down to 11th Street or whatever. It's going to be very, very tough. So I'm still pushing for an engineer who can design, build the bridge just south of it, and then tie it in later and be closed for a week, you know?
That would be nice, except
they're not going to do it. They don't want to do it.
They're not going to do it, and I got some historic structure sitting there.
Well,
So-
you can blend it in. You can do it.
See, the Fort
There are
Thomas,
ways to do
the
it.
Fort Thomas way, yeah.
Partnerships in the works right here. Partnerships. That is awesome. We're getting close to where I would like to open the floor up to the audience for questions. So I've got 2 quick questions to end. One, it's a very important topic, but has to do with economic development. You know, workforce, housing, all of this is hinged on a vibrant economic development plan and the continued growth that Northern Kentucky has enjoyed for so long. And especially with BNKY and others working on site readiness and business attraction, how are your cities aligning with those more regional efforts of BNKY? And are there sorts of industries you are hoping to grow or bring to your city? And then one final real thing, what efforts are you doing or are you putting in place to promote your community's brand? Because each of you have a unique brand for your city, clearly.
Yeah, our economic development director stole the GROW grant from Covington. Mm-hmm. And we use that to help the local businesses fix up their places, which is great. And we have ribbon cuttings all the time, but it's mainly small little pocket businesses, masseuses and hairstylists and this kind of stuff, which is great for the city because we are a bedroom community. But it's that collaboration, because a lot of times people come to us and we don't have room, so we send them off to, hey, check out this city, check out this city, and it's great to have these organizations that are looking at Northern Kentucky as a whole. But we never hesitate to say, we're not right for you. You need to look in Newport, you need to look in Covington, Florence, wherever.
And as Covington, some economic advice to Fort Thomas, we can send about 200 homes your way. That can probably help your community if you're interested.
They're all for sale. Yeah, you can do that, sure. By the way, I was impressed when I came across today with the bike lane. That is awesome.
Thank you.
We did that in Fort Thomas. We put the share row because we got people on bikes, on scooters, on golf carts. That's creating other problems. That's the thing about government. You solve one problem, you create 5 more. And then how do you solve that? So that's a tough one.
One problem at a time, Mayor
One at a
Haas. Mayor Abishon.
I do want to mention, we do have a great economic development team in the city led by Josh Hunt and Justin Finke, and we do put out a quarterly economic development report. If anyone's not on the list and would like to get on the list, just reach out to our city team and we'd be happy to update you. Lots of economic development that happens in Florence, and we are open to incentives, KBI, IRBs, TIFs, whatever we need to move. If it's the right development, we will look at any and all options. One big elephant in the room, I guess, is our Florence Mall, and we are open to getting that developed into some type of mixed use. We've been actively courting and working with developers on that piece of property. It's about 75 developable acres. Figured it'll take about $80 million to move the needle on that project. So it's a heavy lift, and it's complicated with a lot of covenants between the different property owners and the anchors of the mall. So that is definitely something that we are always working on. And then I do feel like in Florence we have the premier green space development in the Marydale property. It's about 270 acres there, and definitely will be changing to the landscape of Northern Kentucky if and when it does decide to develop. People do ask about it a lot. It has a 30-year TIF clock that will start running the minute they start breaking ground, so they need to kind of have aligned what they want to do, and so that's kind of needs to be a little bit broader of a plan, and we will wait until that plan is in place before things start to happen over there. I may not even be mayor by then, so it'll be changing to Northern Kentucky landscape, but it may take a while to get there.
And just to follow up, I want to give a shout out to the chamber, because so recently myself and the mayor and many people in this room went to Nashville to study economic development. And those trips really help us to see some of the things that those other communities are doing that maybe we can bring back to Northern Kentucky. So I appreciate the chamber doing that. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Covington Central Riverfront. Everything's going just absolutely great at that site. We have announced that there's going to be a hotel there. It's going to be about 250 keys at that hotel. It's going to have a rooftop restaurant. There's also a group that's building a market rate apartment building there that's going to be a multi-story, I think 5, 6, 7-story building that's going to have nearly 300 market rate apartments at the location. We're hoping that Chase Law School and UK Med School will be located at the site. We're continuously meeting with developers about the site. There's more things that we'll be announcing soon. Dries Homes is building homes at the location. The Funky Group is building townhomes, and about a dozen or more townhomes, and over half of them have already been sold with the average price of $750,000. So things are going well at CCR, but we've got to remember, and it's my job to remember, to keep focus also on south of 12th Street, because that is Covington.
Mm-hmm. Mayor Haas, anything to add?
I'm good.
All right, sounds good. So I'd like to take an opportunity to give you guys, our guests, an opportunity to ask questions, and I have one more if nobody steps up. But Mayor Haas, I'm going to borrow your wireless microphone, and my dear friend Kyle here, my colleague, is going to go out. So we have a hand back here, Kyle.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Ronald Stubblefield. I'm the new Director of Housing and Place-Based Initiatives for the Greater Cincinnati Foundation. My question for the panel is this: where can regional philanthropy be the most catalytic and complementary to public efforts to advance economic development and affordable housing development for the region?
Well, that's a big one. Good question.
Because I want to help you.
So when Covington looks at our plan, we know we have lots that we could possibly, it's up to the committee, that maybe give a discounted rate on, but the building costs are going to still be very high. So the question is, can we get the right people in those houses, and are they going to qualify? So basically, we're going to need help in that area of buying down that mortgage. Okay, that's basically how we can leverage those funds. So that's what I see is helping buy down that mortgage.
I would say one large segment of the population that is really underserved in housing and really struggling right now is seniors. And any projects that might involve senior housing, I think that would be a great outlet. There's a great example. Shepherd Ridge is in Florence. It is a nonprofit based community, and there's a lot of the residents there that do accept housing vouchers, and without that program there really wouldn't be any place for them really to live. So it does help and assist them, but senior housing is really something that there's a great need.
Mayor Austin, anything to comment on that?
She's right. Yeah, she's right. The senior housing is an issue, and like I mentioned before, as people get older, then they leave their homes, and that opens it up for other people on the income and line housing, which is very important, except in Fort Thomas because the kids take the house. So,
But if they don't have anywhere to go, they're going to stay in their house.
that's right.
Other questions?
Thank you. So one of the things that's come out of our housing blueprint that we're talking about is a Northern Kentucky Housing Fund that would be a public-private partnership run by the Catalytic Fund that could be used to help build housing throughout the region, could be used to provide solutions that we're looking for from a regional perspective. And I would think GCF, that's one of the things that you guys can look at to do, is to be a part of that housing fund. The other thing is we need a lot more workers. We don't have enough in the trades, construction, plumbers, electricians. Frankly, the guys I see at the country clubs, the guys that are at the country clubs these days are doing really well because they're in the trades and they're in high demand. They're making really good salaries, and we've got to get more folks into those careers. So I just want to say that those are some opportunities. And lastly, I just want to say, I don't know if you guys realize how many times you guys said partnership, regional. That hasn't always been the case in Northern Kentucky, and I want to give you kudos to each of you. You each represent a different segment of what I consider one big region. And there's 40,000 people in Covington, there's 32,000 in Florence, 16,000. The largest city in Campbell County is only 16,000. So we have different demographics, different situations, but you each have really worked regionally, and so I wanted to say thank you and keep that up as we try to tackle these transportation and housing challenges that we have.
Brent, you're right on target. And I remember years ago we had some visioning process and we were talking about getting rid of all these independent governments and making one big government, and it flopped on its face. Terrible. But what came out of it is the collaboration. Working where we can, doing joint purchasing, doing all these things that we're talking about, that everybody gets along better, because yes, Fort Thomas is very different than those two cities. And so we have different issues that we have to deal with. It doesn't make sense to be under one government. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, so for Boone, Kenton, and Campbell, we have, 37 cities total between those three counties. We're more greatly populated than Lexington, yet Lexington tends to get a little more sunshine than we do. We are an economic engine. I've gone around and around with Lee Kroom on which statistic you look at, but we are. You just can't deny it. And we're working with Janet Harrod and NKU to continue to monitor that and to prove our case, return on investment for the Northern Kentucky region. And so we're coming up into a budget year in 2026. So the Chamber will be advocating on a number of issues. Of course, housing is one of them. But we're very excited about the main 2 points of the 4 of the housing blueprint. And Brent just outlined that very well. And that's the housing fund and work on housing workforce and developing and building housing construction workforce are 2 really main things. And this is nothing new to us. We've been talking and working on workforce for years now. So I'm going to very quickly end it with one quick question, and please be brief about it, and I'm sure that you will be, just for fun. There's no other questions from the audience, correct? Okay, I've seen none. I will go ahead and throw this one question out. This is more of a reflective look ahead sort of thing. If there's one way you'd encourage residents or businesses to get involved in moving your city and the Northern Kentucky region forward, what would that be?
Absolutely, we need young people getting involved in local government.
Yep.
They are
I'm gonna clap
not
for that
interested in doing that. They just aren't. They're not, they don't want the stuff that we've hoarded all our lives. We have to throw it away, and they don't want to help in local government. So we need young people to be involved so we can keep the path going forward.
In the city of Covington, we've started what's called the Mayors Academy. It'll start in September. We've opened it up to the public. The average class is 25 to 30 people, and we're teaching them about government, and we're hoping to use that group to fill some of our board appointments and to be our future elected leaders. So we're trying to identify those people to move forward.
That's a great idea.
I would say just participate. Come to a meeting, watch it on YouTube. We have all of our meetings on YouTube. You guys probably do as well. Just take part in our surveys. We just did a Parks Master Plan, and we had multiple times where citizens could get engaged, make what they wanted known for our parks, whether it's a fishing pier or more pickleball courts or whatever it was. So just get engaged with any and all efforts. I just had coffee and cookies with the mayor. So any time that you can come provide feedback to myself and my staff, please do that. One thing that I would say not to do is don't believe everything on social media. and things are half-truths or partial truths. But if you really have a question, our staff is so great, and they will go out of their way to meet with you, hear your concerns, listen to you. And I know all of the municipalities around here, the people who work for the cities, they're dedicated to what they do, and they just want to make our Northern Kentucky area a better place. And so just rely on them and come to them and have some frank discussions if you need to, but just be polite.
Great advice, very forward-looking. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking our panelists today. Please remain seated if you would, mayors. I just have a few other things. Again, just want to express our gratitude both to our panelists and our sponsors. Our title sponsor, Duke Energy and Fidelity Investments. Networking sponsors, Alta Fiber, Heritage Bank, and Taft Law. Our event sponsors, Amazon and St. Elizabeth Healthcare. And of course, our media partner, Link NKY. And thank the other media that joined us today. I really appreciate you covering this very important government forum. Please be aware of our next business advocacy event and programming coming up. Please mark your calendar. You can see the graphic there for August 15th. It's a Friday for our next event featuring Congressman Andy Barr, who, by the way, is also running as a Republican in the Republican primary to fill the U.S. Senate seat that Senator Mitch McConnell is vacating. So join us that day. It's a luncheon as well. Registration is open. I expect this will be well attended, so please register today and nab your seat now. And lastly, I'd like to encourage you to scan the QR code. It's up on the screen, but it will also come to you via email, probably later this afternoon or tomorrow, where you can chime in a little bit on how we did today for this program and the value that you got out of it. Hopefully you got a lot out of it. So thank you again all for attending. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you the next time. Good.